Thank you everyone for joining us for the future of fashion and the industry. It's wonderful to have you all here. Before we start, I just want to give a shout out to our partner IIT who have been partnering with us for this webinar. We just have a quick video to play before we go on with the proceedings. Chatushka is going to be your moderator this evening. He is a freelance compier and he's very much involved in moderating our discussions and helping us out with all these webinars. Chatushka, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Parami, for that lovely introduction. So a very warm welcome to our elite and eminent panelists. It's an absolute privilege and pleasure to moderate this discussion on the future of fashion. As you know, the pandemic has been a complete black swan event, unprecedented in nature, which has had global implications that no one absolutely imagined. Fashion is a dynamic industry that has been significantly affected because of this crisis. Today, we have three eminent personalities that have been icons in the fashion and apparel industries sharing their perspectives today. So before I proceed further, there are a few ground rules that I wish to bring to your attention. For our audience, for questions, please post questions in the comments section and it shall be read out to the panelists. If your questions have been already answered during discussion, kindly refrain from reposting the same question. To our esteemed panelists, I shall be reading out the questions and giving the opportunity to each panelist to share their own perspective. There will be general questions directed to have the perspective of all three panelists and simultaneously more specific industry business related questions directed to each one of you. A time slot of 5 minutes will be allocated for answering each question. Appreciate your kind cooperation towards the adherence of time. So our panelists need no introduction, but for formalities, here we go. Introducing our distinguished panelists, Ms. Otara Gunewardene, founder, Embark and Otara Foundation. Good evening, Otara. Thank you for accepting our invite and joining this webinar. Mr. Ajai Singh, founder and managing director of Colombo Fashion Week. Good evening, Ajai. Thank you for accepting our invite and joining this webinar. Mr. Sarinda Unamboowe, chief executive officer, MS Creda. Good evening, Sari. Thank you for accepting our invite and joining this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So let's dive in straight to the questions. What was the fashion industry like in Sri Lanka prior to COVID? Do you consider it as a booming industry with growth potential? Considering apparel exports, it's been a major contributor to the GDP and the economy of Sri Lanka. So I would like to get the views of all panelists. Otara, you've been a well-renowned animal lover, a philanthropist, a fashion icon, also the founder of the fashion retail giant Odell. I would first like to seek your views.
I think fashion retail has progressed quite a bit in Sri Lanka over the years, and of course there's a huge number of options and stores and many different types of clothing and options available for many at different price ranges, different brands, and it has evolved quite a lot. Also on the designer side, there are many more designers who are doing sort of individual collections for people and also have their own stores. So I think it definitely became a very saturated market, and also one which a lot of stores, a lot of brands and a lot of product available for the consumer. So it's a good thing for the consumer that there are so many options available. As for how it was affecting each store and each brand, I'm not sure how much it actually diluted the volumes of sales from original retailers and stores that were there for a long time, and how much each one. But there's definitely opportunities for a lot of different people to open new stores and offer the customers in their areas. And I also think it's spread not only to the urban Colombo area, but a lot of options were also available in other bigger cities, which probably wasn't there before. So it was definitely a good time for the consumer with the number of options and stores and things available. So I think that's probably where fashion retail was, and new malls opening and even more stores opening there. So I think that's where we were before COVID.
Thanks for that insight that you shared. Ajai, Colombo Fashion Week has driven progressive change in every aspect of the fashion industry in Sri Lanka. What is your perspective that you could share?
Most of the designer brands in Sri Lanka, which are owned by designers, fall in the SME categories. And as an SME, they've been like Otara said, there are a lot of opportunities for them to grow because suddenly there's spaces available, malls are there, and I must say that after the attacks last year, there was a dip, and then we started to pick up a bit more. We saw more younger designers coming forth. Businesses of the existing ones had stabilized a bit, and so we were looking forward to a good season again this year till COVID hit and kind of change the directions a bit. But overall scenario was, I think it was growing because we could categorize designer labels in two parts. One who were probably been there for 3-4 years or longer, and their businesses were progressively growing. Bridal market was really kind of driving the sales for most of them. And then some of the brands who were also doing bridals were also having retail stores. And when they had the retail stores, they were expanding their collections. They were opening, their portfolio was expanding. So they were all experiencing growth. And then you had the younger ones coming out of school. And when they came out of school, they were showcasing collections. So overall, there was a really good momentum that was moving forward. And yeah, when so many options of retail opens up, it's a great way for consumers to interact with the fashion brands. So overall, I think it was doing really well. And yeah, so my 3 minutes, I've done it in 3 minutes.
Thanks, Ajai. Sarinda, MAS is one of the largest apparel manufacturers in Southeast Asia. What is your perspective?
So first, Chatuska, saying 3 fashion icons would be a gross injustice to the 2 fashion icons who are on this. I'm just a tailor, so I'm the person behind the scenes in this equation. But if you look at the fashion industry, if you look at the manufacturing side of the fashion industry in Sri Lanka over the last 20 years, the one thing that we have played is a massive support role for a lot of the leading brands in the world for fashion. So we have designed, we have developed, we have manufactured, we have been doing this for a long time. It's just really sad that we haven't been able to get a top-end local brand to really go out there and make big waves in the global industry. Having said that, I really see what has happened now with the pandemic something that is going to be very positive for retailers, because now the one thing that has really shot off the scales is digital commerce, e-commerce. So if you look at all the brands that are dealing in the fashion industry, or most brands, they've seen like a 70, 80, 100, sometimes 200, 300% growth in their digital sales. So what I feel is that if a Sri Lankan brand really capitalizes now on that digital marketing opportunity, that we can really go out and reach the world in a way that we couldn't have done pre-pandemic. So I think there are lots of brands out there right now that are very, very, very forward-thinking, very progressive, extremely cutting-edge fashion. If you're talking about sportswear, swimwear, leisurewear, we've got the entire gamut of stuff available in this country. We just haven't been able to capitalize on the marketing potential. So I think there are lots of opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarinda, for sharing that perspective. So moving on to my next question, I would like to direct it to Sarinda. How did business continue with operations during the time of this pandemic? Were you ready for a tech digital conversion, or was it a complete paradigm shift? Were you compelled to leverage on digital infrastructure and jump on the bandwagon simply to survive? How did the employees take it? Was there a work from home arrangement for them? How did they embrace this change?
So I can't speak in general for the entire industry, but I can tell you that for us, obviously this caught everybody by surprise. It caught everybody completely by surprise because, as you said, the Black Swan event, nobody saw it coming. In that sense, the shock of it happening took a couple of weeks for us to really digest and understand what was going to go on. There were two things that were really scary. One is not knowing where the end was. And two was the fact that business went from being extremely good to zero. It just dropped completely. So from a manufacturing point of view, if you can't get your people into a manufacturing establishment or into a plant, there is no manufacturing. So it came to a complete halt. But if you talk about the office environment, if you talk about the front office staff, as it were, the people who deal with the customers, the people who do the design, the development, all that, a lot of that work was already happening digitally in our spaces. We had already invested in a lot of digital platforms to do product creation, development, design, even sampling. All that was already being done digitally. We had already started introducing a day, and we had just started introducing 2 days as an option to work from home. So all the plans were in place. What COVID did was put it on steroids. It went from 0 to 60 overnight. So what happened? There were a few, jitters and shivers along the way because you had to suddenly gather speed and go to a place that you were uncomfortable. But having had the structure and framework put in place, it was actually not as bad as we expected it to be. People adjusted very quickly to working from home, and we are making it a permanent arrangement. We are really capitalizing on the lessons that we learned here, and we are making it an arrangement where we are able to reduce up to 40% of our real estate footprint as a result of rostering and making people come only on a particular number of days per week. So again, we were ready for, we had a digital platform in place, so it made it a little easier. We had a working structure in place that made working from home nothing alien, but it just had to be put on a fast track.
Thank you, Sari, for sharing that insight. My next question, I'd like to direct it to Ajai. Sustainability and ethical fashion are quickly becoming a part of this generation's value set. How do you create awareness amongst fashion consumers and build an ecosystem to create and consume responsible fashion? How do you design a garment with a disposable mindset? Ajay, I'd like to hear your perspective.
Yeah, thank you. But I think that's the important part, disposal mindset, right? That's what you need to start with that. And it's a where everyone is a stakeholder, from the consumer to the every person on the fashion supply chain needs to be a part of a disposable mindset, right? Now, you can't do it alone. And I feel that, big brands around the world who've been completely, hammered on the street by the activists for, I don't want to take names because some of them get manufactured here as well. And so they've been so they've been, they've been really, kind of isolated. But my point was that, it's not, they're not the ones at fault. It's the entire system. From the designers, the pressure of the consumers, the pressure in the market, the stock exchange who's driving most brands. So everything is connected, right? So, and I think the biggest problem is that when private equity companies years ago started buying fashion brands, that's when the problem started, because they were all driven by numbers. So numbers had to be to the retail, translated to the designers, to the suppliers, sourcing of fabric. Sarinda knows that we've had interesting conversations on that, and then China becoming one-stop shop for creating all that and moving it around the world. So it's not China's fault. It's not, how the whole system consumers never ask questions. So my point was, problem started with the consumers. Why did they never ask questions? If the consumer starts asking questions, even if the consumer starts asking questions now, right, the entire supply chain will change. Because consumer, with that when they open the wallet, is a vote, which brand I'm going to buy, right? And if they start asking questions now, it will be the reverse thing of that. It'll put pressure on the retailers to source the right one. That will go back to the brands to manufacture, to the designers to design, and the entire supply chain will turn around. So I feel that lot of activists that you see around the world walking on the streets and saying we need to go green, we need to go sustainable, we need to ask them how much of money are they spending buying those kind of brands first. So a lot of people, it's good to talk sustainable, it's good to talk green, but action is not kind of matching up to the activism on the streets. So I feel for building awareness, yes, media has done enough. I think COVID has done enough. COVID has already, built a lot of awareness towards buying sustainable brands, buying, sustainable way of living, so to say. And so if consumers need to start asking questions, so my whole focus would be consumers. Ask questions. What are you wearing? Why are you wearing that? Where did you get it? Ask questions. When you start asking the question, you'll go all the way back to the guy who's designing it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing honest and open feedback, Ajai. Appreciate it. Moving on to the next question, I'd like to direct it to Otara. Talking about an entrepreneurial mindset, you built a brand with persistence and sheer commitment, began selling factory surplus garments and apparel from your own car trunk to family and friends. Would it be advisable for a new fashion brand to launch at this time? Is there a potential for change? Otara?
With adversity, there's always great potential for new things, and especially in the world where that's happening, where we're at now. It's I believe it's kind of a new world that's dawning, with a new consumer, a new consciousness that's changing the lifestyles of people, and I think it's something that has been happening for a while. It's not really only COVID related. The fashion industry has been changing for the last few years, and a lot of it is due to how the consumer is relating to the brands, and the environmental impact, and the problems with fast fashion, the amount of the buy and throw that we have got used to, which is really not environmentally friendly, and neither is it really something that we need to be a part of, even though I was also part of that sort of whole era of fast fashion, because as consumers, industries, we are all pushed to buy things that we don't always need, and it's a constant push to get us to buy stuff that we don't need. And I think it's something that people have started to realize, and it's our whole drive of wanting more and more and more that's causing such stress and strain on the environment in different ways, and it's not only related to fashion, of course, it's related to everything, so I think that's where more people are getting more aware, more conscious, wanting to change their lifestyle, how they live, and the 3 months in lockdown, I think, were a great push that to many to realize that you can live in your home for 2-3 months with very little and be quite all right with that, So a lot of people have already, have decided, to change how they buy, how they shop, and to be, to be more conscious. So I think that brings along with it a lot of new opportunities, to buy, to offer that consumer, products which are, eco-friendly, truly sustainable, not the sustainable that we got used to using in every little, in many ways that is not actually sustainable as well. Local, being strong with our local products. I don't think we're strong enough at all. I think that's one thing we all realized as well, that we don't have a lot of stuff that we can depend on locally that we can produce, and that goes from everything, from food to fashion to everything. So I mean, there's always a lot of new opportunities that come up, and it's those with that sort of that sort of insight, a different insight and a different vision, and with entrepreneurial capability that can always spot those those gaps and then start something new. So I think I really think it's a good time for that. I see a lot of gaps that can be filled. I don't know if I'll start something, but I certainly see the gaps. I'm not sure if I want to start or not, but I do see opportunity.
Great answer. Thank you for that feedback, Otara. So my next question is to Sari. There would have been painful decisions and measures that you would have had to undertake, including slashing of employee salaries to manage the cash flows, eventually letting people go, downsizing. Have you been compelled to slash employee salaries and downsize? How have you leveraged on creativity to sustain in the market? Have you repurposed your resources, mainly human resources, to any other adjacent segments? And also, if you can touch on the safety measures and preventive measures undertaken in the workplaces as well. So it's a twofold question to you, Sari.
Okay, so first, when a company, obviously we have an overhead that we have to carry on a regular basis. And when suddenly your earnings go from X to 0, there is a fear that you won't be able to sustain the organization over a period of time till your earnings return to some kind of normalcy. In the month of April, or starting from the month of March, our earnings went to absolute 0. So the first thing we needed to do was to ensure that the company's, the organization's cash reserves were protected, and that we were able to sustain ourselves we looked at a 6-month window. Can we sustain ourselves over a 6-month window? That was the first thing because we wanted to protect everybody's jobs and we wanted to protect the organization. So at senior level, a collective decision was made at very senior level. A collective decision was made to make some sacrifices on our packages. And that was a voluntary thing that we did across the board at again, I say very senior level. But at the regular level in the organization, no changes were made. No jobs have been slashed so far, but we don't know how long this is going to continue. So that's why I quite.
Sorry, I think we lost you there. Sorry?
Internet issue, probably.
Yes. So let's give it some time. I think Sari is probably facing some form of a technical issue. So what I'll do is is Sari back? No, not yet. So it seems like Sari is facing some form of a technical issue. So we hope he'll be back. So until Sari is
back. He's back, right?
I am back.
Okay.
I have no idea what
happened.
Hello. Hello. Did you miss
me?
Hello.
Yes. We missed you.
You're back.
Sorry, I'm running away. Okay, where was I? So, okay, looking at the organization, right? Shall I continue where I left off? I think I left off somewhere where. Okay.
Yes.
So with earnings being we have a huge concern of earnings for the rest of the year because our sales have dropped in some cases 30-40%, in some cases as much as 50-60% with particular clients that we work with. So in that situation, what we have to do is you can't plan out too far. If you plan out too far, you don't know what this turnaround is going to be like. Is it going to be E-shaped turnaround, U-shaped turnaround? All kinds of shapes are coming out right now as to what this turnaround is going to be. But what we need to do is look at this in like 3-month windows. You need to break it down into 3-month chunks and think, how am I going to survive for the next 3 months? What do I need to do? So working from home has brought us a huge amount of savings. One, you're saving on transport, you're saving on food on a regular basis, you're saving on electricity, rents, all kinds of things have come through. And what we want to do is try and bring those disciplines into the organization going forward. There is no need to bring up 500 people, 1,000 people into an office on a daily basis to work. They can work from home on particular days of the week. So we're trying to roster it in such a way that each person will probably come to work 2 days a week, maybe a little more. And even on alternate weeks. So we haven't really figured out what that balance is going to be. So first, what we need to do is ensure the longevity of the organization, that we can survive. So strict measures were taken to curb costs there. And then measures on keeping this going and learning from the disciplines that we brought in over the last 3 months. So we haven't taken any decisions on slashing heads or anything like that right now. There is no need to get panicky about those things right now, because this could turn quite quickly. You know, retail markets in many places in Europe have started opening up again. Even in the US, shops have started opening up. So sales are gradually coming in. So it's not like all doom and gloom. There could be a second wave, yes, then we react to that. But right now, short-term measures were taken. We will look at them again as we go on. Every month, every week almost, we're looking at them and taking decisions accordingly.
Thank you, Sari. Just to recap on my question, Sari, there was another part to it. I mean, in terms of repurposing resources,
yes.
Any other adjacent segments, as well as the safety measures and preventive measures undertaken by MAs.
Okay, so we haven't been repurposing as such, because most people have pretty specific roles. But what we have been able to do is look at how those roles can cross between, say, for example, sharing resources between different companies, different accounts. So it's not a repurposing as such, but just allocating their time better, because we've found that people have more time when they're working from home. Most of us were commuting just about 1.5 to 2 hours every day. The other thing, on the safety measures, the plants are back at work, and some of these plants have 2,000 to 3,000 people working in them. So very, very stringent and very strict safety measures with the guidelines of the government, the local PHIs, the BOI, have been put into place to ensure that people are checked before they board the transport. On the transport, there is certain distancing and certain protective measures they have to take. When they get to office, there's a sanitization process that takes place. When they get to the when they are working, there is a distance that the machines have been laid out at. So every safety measure has been put in on the guidelines by the Health Ministry and the PHIs. Because the danger here is that if there is one infection in a zone, for example, that entire zone has to close down. So the responsibility in ensuring that these standards are maintained is every one of us. You know, we are now, I'm starting to see, Ajai was talking about it as well as, we were talking about Talpe before this, where everybody seems to be going back to the beach. What we haven't forgotten is this thing hasn't gone away. So if we go jumping around straight away and acting like we are back to normal, and it hits again, we are the ones who are going to suffer out of this. So this is in our hands to make sure that we ensure safety and protection.
Indeed, a valuable insight and perspective that you shared there, Sari. Moving on to my next question, I'd like to direct it to Ajai. How do you increase and enhance the lifespan of an apparel or clothing? The importance of leveraging on creativity, built-in design features, elasticated waistbands, additional buttons or drawstrings to accommodate for fluctuations in the body shape. Ajay, I would like to hear your thoughts.
You got Sarinda's question also mixed with mine. He's the one with the elasticated bands.
He's down 10 kilos now.
Yeah.
About the thin pants stage.
Thin pants stage. So, I think Otara was saying earlier, it's very interesting that we are buying too many clothes, right? We're buying fast fashion, cheap, wear it, throw it away. Another nice thing, good, throw it away. And, we were doing this interesting program, I think 3-4 months ago. We kind of analyzed, a group of people, and we looked at how much of clothes are there in the wardrobe and how much do they actually wear. And we realized that 25% is what you wear most of the time. 75% is hanging there. So why is it hanging there? Point is that if you planned it well, that 75% is what is going to cause all the damage to the environment if you don't look at it, re-look at it, repurpose it, do something with that. And so we kind of thinking that, okay, moving forward, okay, if COVID happened, like I said, it kind of, what Sarinda was saying, just like digital, this put even sustainable fashion on steroids now, because, people need to figure out, you don't need that many clothes. You don't need it that fast. You don't need to change it that fast, right? And also it puts a huge onus on designers. What kind of clothes are they going to make? Are they making short term? Are they going to make clothes which are classics and which can last and, go through occasions interestingly? So, how you can style them better. You can make them look differently, or look different. So all that is what's going to come into play now. You just see. I was talking to some people recently, and I said, there'll be something called, collection which will stay longer, even recently I heard, I think it was Gucci or someone, they don't want to go the fashion week way. They don't want to go season way. They're going to go seasonless, right? But seasonless was always a thing that I always thought seasonless was more important, because the clothes should be able to do what they're supposed to do for a longer period of time. So it relieves pressure on the environment through all the things that we do with that. So, now I lost my train of thought, but did I answer?
You did.
That happens often, yes. You're not the only one.
Senior moment.
If I've answered, I'm done then.
It's about timeless fashion now. It's fashion that lasts longer. Yeah. And it's not just to do with the fashion industry, it's to do with us, right? It's what's wrong with us that we keep wanting more and more and more and more and more than what we really need. And I think a lot of people also realize during this time that yes, we all have a lot more. Many have much more than they need, and many have a lot less than what they need, because they have spent their money on all this stuff that they don't need, and now during this time they're struggling to balance on how to find the money to buy the food, to buy the because obviously the work has stopped, the income that they're getting is less, so they've also spent a lot of money on stuff that you don't need. And then you realize that, at a time like this, which nobody ever thought would happen, right? I mean, none of us ever thought we'll ever witness a day or a time when the world comes to a standstill, and there's so little you can do. It's not in our control, at all. And I think this is the change. I mean, like I said before, it has been happening over the last few months. Many brands that I used to follow with such great passion, many department stores that I used to love are not there anymore. Many brands are not there anymore. Many other brands are downsizing. Their businesses are going bankrupt, and they're trying to re-innovate. If they had 1,000 stores, they're bringing it down to 200 stores. So a lot of those things were actually happening before COVID as well. And it is to do with, obviously the consumer is changing. What they want is changing. How they shop is changing as well. And the whole, this whole circular fashion thing was coming into, getting more and more popular. Recycling, upcycling, and trying to, to upcycle the clothes you have and make it, more. Give it a newer look rather than buying something new. And in the past, we would think of that as, that's like she's so cheap. That's like a cheap thing to do because she's not fashionable. If you talk from a fashion woman's point of view, that's how it was perceived at that time. But now it's sort of more fashionable to be able to, to re-innovate yourself and to innovate the clothes you have into something new and wear it, and many are, this whole thing of wearing the same thing a few times, you know, is like at one time it was like a big no-no in fashion to be seen in the same dress twice, but now it's like yeah, it's quite accepted, and you know, so that's why like the more timeless pieces are really the clever and the right way of shopping, I think, and that you said, you really, I mean, most wardrobes, if you look at, you know, there's a lot of stuff that you don't wear, and what do you do with that? You leave it away, or you throw it away, and you know, in many parts of the world, like a lot of these landfills are full of clothes, and you know, you just buy and throw, and you know, clothes are getting very, very, very cheap. For $5, $10, you could just, you know, buy a shirt, and then next week you go and buy another one. So that's really the change that was happening. And now, like Ajay, I have lost the train of thought of what the question was, so I stopped there.
Okay, so I can pick there.
How about I step in and help these guys out?
I can pick from where Otara left.
No, I think so. Ajay, Otara is yes. Go ahead, sir.
For a minute, you know, they both mentioned two things. One is timeless fashion, and the other one is upcycling. If you look at, like, say for example, look at the shirt Ajay is wearing, right? If it started off as a white shirt, you could, when it started losing its color or whatever it may be, you know, or started getting a little stain, you could dye it into a light blue shirt or a light green shirt, and then later on you can become a black shirt. If you have a friend who has, or anywhere you can go to that can dye your clothes for you, you can take the same shirt and just keep coloring it and wearing it, because dyeing it alone is a hell of a lot less damage than buying a new shirt. So I've started doing that as well. You know, you buy like base colors and you just reduce. And why are we trying to impress people who we don't even really like? We're trying to look a particular way. I think actually just feel good, you know, feel comfortable. You don't have to look like a scab, but, you know, look decent, but be sensible.
And be authentic.
Absolutely.
And take a pocket from another shirt and put it on.
Good idea, yeah.
No, that's the design.
No, but you know, there was a time, right, where we used to do that. I mean, I remember doing it, you know, with my mother, and, you know, going and getting my clothes, some, like you said, the color changed, or, you know, some, like you know, I used to have jeans as well, right? Like we used to, it's so difficult to get a pair of jeans, and I don't know where I got one from, you know, the flared ones. And then I in my teen years, I grew tall, and the jeans got short. So then I cut a striped fabric from somewhere else, and I put it at the bottom of the jeans, and it's like a whole new look. You know, I mean, those are things that, I mean, the last, you know, so many years we wouldn't really even think of. We give that away and go and buy another one. So it's kind of like going back also to, you know, to where we were, and, you know, the like, so what we sometimes say, the good old days. but those are things we used to do, actually. So it's nothing new as well. But those changes are coming, and it is happening. I mean, you know, and outside, actually, I was reading an article yesterday, and it was talking about the luxury industry, fashion industry, and they had said that after COVID, a lot of people think that now they think luxury is being at home with their families and spending quality time in their homes, and doing something special rather than going out and buying what we know as luxurious stuff. So as a result, that's also getting less, because earlier that was like the most important to do, but now they've discovered a new luxury to kind of, I mean, it'll never go away, but it'll drop in percentage, I think.
That's great, Otara. So that was a blend of three interesting perspectives from all three panelists. So my next question is actually at Otara. And this question is from the viewers that have tuned in. It's a twofold question. What are your opinions to the downsizing of many top fashion brands around the world due to the current crisis? If you are a current fashion retail brand, how would you bounce back after these many months of lockdown? So this is a viewer question that has been raised, Otara, if you'd like to address it.
Yeah, so like I said before, like I think this has been happening because I have been watching it in the last so many 3-4 years where this thing has been, changing, like so many brands disappearing, reinventing themselves, so many department stores trying, either a couple of them actually not there anymore, some reinventing. So it is something that was happening, which will obviously get, accelerated during this time for some brands, for some department stores, because like Sarinda said, we don't know none of us know what it's going to be like in the months ahead. We are not. I believe we're not going to go back to the way we were. So there is going to be new things happening, and so we don't really know how it's going to affect each brand and each company and each department store or each luxury brand. So I think those that know that they can't go on in the size, I think what's very clear is the scale is reducing. Even though the brands may not disappear, the scale at which they were at, a lot of them were at, are reducing. I mean, like a few years ago, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, who would have thought about Victoria's Secret? What's happening and how they are being impacted now. And that's a lot of it is also because of the consumer. How the consumer has changed, and that it was so incredibly glamorous and wonderful at one time, and the consumer, the mindset is changing, and that's happening to many. So many are downsizing. So I mean, there's no one rule or one thing you can say across the board for everything. It just depends on your company, on the brand, on the market share that you have. For some, the market share you have may not be relevant at all in the future. Maybe a slight tweak will be relevant once again in the future to some. It is a time of really, I mean, in all times like this, I mean, of course, this is very extreme, but I know, and I've been through, many dips previously of, financial crisis and, a lot of situations like in Sri Lanka as well. And it has always helped you to look at your company, look at what you're offering, and to edit and to tweak it and it also gives you the time to do that. So some will come out very successful and better, and others may not. So I don't think there's really one formula. It really depends on what your product is and what your company is. But it is a time of definitely really looking at what you can offer and what you're offering, and to see how to edit it and how to change it to make it relevant for the new world that's dawning.
Thank you, Otara. I think certainly you did justice to that question and answered it in depth. So we've just come to our last question. If there's no more further questions coming up from the viewers that are on our live stream. So the question is, what is considered as the new normal in fashion, and how do we adapt to it? So I'd like to give reference to customized, fashionable face masks that have been quite popular items, as well as PPEs, branded PPEs. And also ending this webinar, is there any concluding remarks, any advice that could be shared? Do you believe in a bright perspective for the fashion industry? This question is open to all panelists. I'd like to start with Sari.
I really don't know whether there is going to be a massive surge in COVID-related fashion as such. There is some activity on the side of the PPEs. Obviously, there's a huge need for the medical profession right now. So a lot of scrubs, a lot of gowns, that kind of stuff a market has been created for that. Whether that's going to be an ongoing thing or not, I can't really see it an ongoing thing, because I really believe that there will be at some point in the hopefully very near future a cure for this pandemic, a vaccine that will come out for COVID, we hope. And that could be an abrupt stop to what's going on. That may take another year, it may take 2 years. So in that period, yes, you may see a surge in this kind of stuff, but I don't see it as a long-term ongoing need for fashion. But then again, I could be very wrong. I mean, I can't. It's very difficult to predict that kind of thing right now. Personally, I find the fashion related face mask rather ludicrous. That's my personal belief. I'm just a old bugger. On post-COVID business, I think all of us need to look at all the good things that we have learned from this pandemic. There were, as much as there are a lot of people who suffered as a result of this and still suffering as a result of it, and whose lives changed for the worse, there's a lot of good that came out of it also. There's a lot of positives that came out of it. And if it would be a huge loss of opportunity if we went right back to where we were and didn't learn from the things that, for example, the value of family time, the value of, the time that we had to ourselves, the need for this, we were talking about fast fashion, the total unnecessary need for people to keep renewing their wardrobes, all those things, and the ways we work. Because just like if you don't buy a shirt, you're going to impact the environment in a much better way than trying to buy a sustainably manufactured shirt. If you don't go to office, if you don't make that journey, you're going to make a much better impact on your carbon footprint than if you did make the journey, even if you made it 3 days a week. So those are all things, hidden benefits that we can look at and really remodel the way the world works going forward. So what I would like to tell anybody and everybody in the audience is please pay attention to all the positives that came out of this. The positive impact to planet, the positive impact to our health. How many of us felt that we were much healthier because our fast food consumption dropped by 90%, if not 100%.
Thank you, Sari, for sharing
So those
that.
are things that we really need to focus on and look at the positives that we learn from this and go forward.
Thank you for sharing that piece of advice. That was insightful. Ajay?
Well, I think, fashion as an industry always needed a reset and reboot. And I think it's a perfect time. So I think we shouldn't go back to the rut we were in, where sales, were like artificially, a lot of big brands around the world. How do I say it without naming them? The big retailers on the Western side of the world, from Western Europe to the Western world, would generate a big sale and a big discount every week, every month. So there was never a desire or a need for the consumer to buy. So all those were artificially stimulated desires when you walk past, and I was a victim of that a lot myself when I would buy, and I would hate myself after when I come back with bags full of things which I don't need. And my point is that, and now some of the stuff is still like unpacked, still packed. I'm thinking, what is it doing here in the house when I don't even need it, right? Then at the same time, a big retail from the eastern side has come in, more towards that little rising sun island, and they're creating big we call amazing clothes at really cheap prices, and those clothes, if you buy, they're the ones which are more classics, right? They're more classic. They last longer. They have better quality. Now, between them and the Western world big retailers, where the mask of Zorro came from, right? And how
it's all the riddles as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm so tempted to name, right, but I can't. So you know what I mean. So these things, we need to relook at it. Like what did like Otara was saying at home. So what were you wearing at home, right? And then Sarinda said something interesting. So so at least wear it for yourself. Don't wear it to show, right? Wear what makes you feel happy. And yes, you go to an occasion and you realize that you're presentable. You look good there, and so to really express who you are through garments, right? So all those things, if you look at it, at least 50% of rubbish that fashion brings in will be cleaned up. And that's all we need. We just need 50% of the good one to move forward. So yeah, that was my thoughts on that.
Thank you for your concluding remarks, Ajay. Otara?
So I think their question was about the masks and things, and yeah, I also think, like Sarinda said, I honestly don't think I hope, and I don't believe it will be there for long term. And I always have this sort of idea that when you brand and when you give focus to things that we don't want to see in the future, we don't want to see the mask in the future. So I believe you shouldn't brand it. I believe you should make it, fashionable and prominent, so that it remains. Put a lot of energy in that. So hopefully that will that will disappear. And again, I agree with Sarinda, where we should not forget what all the good things that happened during this time. And there's so much. Yes, there's so much difficulty for as well, but there's so much good as well that happened to the planet, to nature, even if you stepped outside, the skies were, so clear, so blue. There were so many flowers. I've never seen so many flowers in Colombo, and all these beautiful videos were going around with all the animals free, and so we should not step back into this world of where we are so disconnected and we want animals removed, forests removed. I do see some of it still happening, unfortunately. But I hopefully, that there will be many who won't go back to that, and who will change, and who will appreciate, the time spent at home, what we did at home, and the health aspect of it is really the biggest benefit. With the reduction of the fast food that we used to eat. A lot of us, most were eating food from home, which we had reduced, and which really had such good health benefits. And if there's one lesson to learn, one big lesson to learn from this situation is that we have to do things that keep our immune system boosted, so that we don't get infections, and not only COVID, but in general other diseases and infections as well. And a lot of that is to do with because we constantly do things to that affects our immune system and makes us very weak. And that's a lot to do with our lifestyle, with what we're eating, how we think, all those things. So I think those changes really we should do personally, individually, as a family, for the benefit of all of each one of us, our families, our communities, and also our country and the world.
Thank you very much, Otara, for that captivating and insightful perspective that you shared. So that concludes our webinar. I am extremely thankful to our distinguished panelists for tuning in, accepting our invitation, and sharing a lot of insight and information within a short time period. So that concludes our webinar, future opportunities in the fashion industry. Yes, unfortunately. So we are very thankful to all the panelists that share their views and opinions. We would like to wish you all the very best in your future endeavors that you undertake. All the very best. Good luck. Thank you, and keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.